we are trying to train our designers to become capable of utilizing AI the best way possible. And we are internally using a phrase called human-centered AI-driven user
I've heard of
experiences.
this, yes. In the future, when AI takes over the world, humans will still have a job of doing nothing.
As a designer, if I understand I can study users' behavior in this way, and these are the parameters that I can utilize, I can have a better user experience in place. AI is kind of a nuclear technology. You can decide to build a bomb, or you can decide to create clean energy. It's completely the choices we make as a human.
Correct. Hey Chandan, good morning. How are you doing?
Good, yeah. Wonderful to be here. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Cool. Thanks for coming. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. I think that will be absolutely necessary. My full name is Chandan Mishra. I work with Coditas as the head of UX, head of take care of the entire UX services, and excited to be here today.
Awesome. This is largely, what we are going to talk about today is about AI and how generative AI or AI in general has impacted user experience, right? From the perspective of building user experiences and also from the perspective of how user experience designers are using AI to, make their life better, right? So have you been exploring AI?
Oh yes, I have been dabbling with it since many years now. In fact, for the audience, we have studied together. Our last year project was around AI and how we have done wonderful use cases there. But yeah, since then I've been always fascinated about the power that AI brings, specifically for the creative domain. That's where I've kind of migrated to now, and I see how generative AI tools are coming up and how they are kind of taking over a lot of workflows that we had as designers. I'm extremely excited about where the things are going and how far we have come.
Interesting. So what's your, read or opinion of AI, generative AI, and where it's going in general?
Oh, sure. So I, for a change, maintain a neutral standpoint there because I see it as an enabler more than anything else. At the same time, I see a lot of threats which advanced technology like this brings. So we will need, as a human society, we will have to do a lot of things to ensure that all of these things are still contained and they are utilized for the right purposes.
Interesting.
I do see, as a designer, I do see a lot of things which were impossible, seemingly impossible earlier, are now becoming possible. Right? So experiences, a part of experiences which we used to think back in the day, if things would have been like this, it would have been so nice. They are now becoming possible. And as a designer, I can keep those thoughts in my head. So when I'm visualizing a user experience, I know how I can utilize those pieces of technology.
So you spoke a lot about, things being possible which were not possible earlier. Are you using those things in your day to day? Do you use AI?
Oh yes, I do. I do. In fact, everyone's friend ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
Of course. And I use a combination of multiple different tools. I see, like for example, tools like Notion or Canva. A lot of AI-based Figma plugins have come into our workflow within Figma. So all of those things are part of my day to day. Of course, all the different tools are being used for different purposes. I don't think there is one tool which will be like the god level
Right.
features, and it can fit into everything that we do. I don't know if there will ever be a tool like that, but yes, I've been using it quite extensively.
Interesting. What kind of use cases though? So these are tools, right? Everyone is using these tools,
Right.
right? Like, regard even I use those,
Right.
right? Like whether it's AI in Canva, AI
Right.
in ChatGPT, like you
Right.
said, definitely I use it. And ChatGPT is a friend. That's what even I call it, right? So how are you using them? Like, how does the brain of a user experience designer think about the UX to the AI tools differently?
Sure. So um, my day to day right now, since last many years, has now moved towards design leadership.
Okay.
And lesser and lesser towards hands-on designing. I still design and live in Figma just for my own personal edge. So the way I use generative AI tools or AI tools in general, AI-enabled tools in general, is going to be different from what you will see other designers using it.
Got it.
So personally, I use, for example, any conversational applications, for example, ChatGPT. for ideating every time I'm thinking of a new idea or anything of that sort. If I'm doing an extensive research on a specific topic, I rely on ChatGPT specifically. I have recently started using Perplexity, and
Nice.
in fact, I was thinking about it the other day, and it was very interesting. My usage of Google search has drastically reduced.
That's the case with me as well.
Right.
Yes.
So this is something which I was not hoping would happen.
Right.
Honestly,
Right.
6 7 months ago, but now I see that happening because initially, at least personally, I had this issue of trusting the data that was being thrown towards me
Hmm.
and from these AI
Hmm.
tools.
Hmm.
Um, Also because they lack sources, and that's the
Right.
difference between Google
Google.
search
Right.
and what results you get
Correct.
from ChatGPT, for
Correct.
example.
Hmm.
Perplexity is different, but specifically ChatGPT, and that's where I was personally slightly unsure of what I was looking at and the authenticity of the data. But now I'm getting more and more comfortable. I can ask ChatGPT to give me sources.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
that's what I learned, painfully later.
Correct.
But yeah, that's how I've been doing. And of course, I do keep experimenting with a lot of these tools. For example, I have created a user journey. Okay, right? By having a conversation with ChatGPT. Of course, I had to learn how to prompt it better.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, the output that I got was decent for a first draft.
Okay. Okay. So do you use Midjourney to create screens and stuff like that? I know a lot of designers do,
Yeah.
and I am wowed by it. Right.
So I have used, but
Okay.
not for UI specifically.
Okay.
I still find the output of Midjourney, specifically to the work that I do, slightly non-aesthetic. Probably,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Which is
I wouldn't
counting.
describe it that way, but
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Right. And that's so I think maybe what you just said, right? So um, when an expert looks at an output
Mm-hmm.
which belongs to their expertise area,
Mm-hmm.
they will look at it from a extremely critical way, right?
Right.
They will analyze and study each and everything, and probably that is what the difference is.
Mm.
And so every time I look at an output from Midjourney, or in fact ChatGPT has started supporting it,
Correct.
I am constantly. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm constantly focusing on what is not right.
Mm.
Probably because my expectations are high at this point in time. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
that's
could be that.
possible. That's possible, right? Because as a UX designer, you look at it from that perspective,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
As a developer, I look at it as a skill that I do not have,
Correct.
that is being fulfilled by an AI tool,
Correct.
right? So for me, it's there, but for you, it actually comes down,
Right.
So
And it can be vice versa. Like for example, long ago,
Mhm.
I was trying to use ChatGPT to help me create a blog post. It
Okay.
was just an experiment as part of a larger experiment that I was running. The output that I got, I found it, impressive enough
Mhm.
because I probably don't understand the art of writing content
Right.
for say engagement.
Correct.
And immediately after that, I conducted a research. So I spoke with around 16 to 18 different content writers, digital marketers,
Okay.
and my goal was to understand what they were feeling about these tools. And this was probably May or June last year. And I was surprised to see how majority of the people I spoke with, they were very comfortable with those tools. And they, of course, had the same feedback because they felt that the output these tools were giving were excellent for the first draft. They needed further iteration, but the output helped them solve the problem of coming up with the first draft. Right?
Correct.
As a creative myself, I understand the amount of grunt you have to go through
Correct.
to come up with that decent enough first draft, and then if you can utilize these tools to come up with them quicker,
Right.
I think like it.
Yeah. So one way to a term that has been coined to define what you just said is co-pilot.
Right.
So that's what they are supposed to be used as. Although there are specific tools like GitHub Copilot is one of them, but everyone is building a Copilot for something. We have built a Copilot for content writing,
yes,
right?
yes.
So using all of these AI tools, right? So thinking of each and every AI tool that comes up as a Copilot as something that will help you get a first draft of something that you're working on or something like that is something that will definitely take you places, right? It will save a lot of time, a lot of initial work for you, and it will increase your productivity. Is what I have seen and heard from many people across the industry.
Of course, and I've felt that. I think I totally agree with you. And we have been trying to build a lot of, and we have built a lot of AI
Correct?
based tools,
Yeah.
and we see how they have evolved. Right, so it's exciting.
Okay, wonderful. So these were just tools, Chandan, like, how you use AI, and that is good, right? And that's what my question was, like, how you're using tools. But then, because you're a UX designer, so you of course design the user experience for a lot of products. So how do you think about adding AI or integrating AI into all of these products that we are building at Coditas? Do you have a playbook for that, or is it
So we do have a mental playbook for sure.
okay?
What we are trying to do is we are trying to train our designers to become capable
Okay.
of utilizing AI in the best way possible.
Okay.
And we are internally using a phrase called human-centered AI-driven user
I've heard of
experiences.
this. Yes.
Right. So um, and the thought process there is every time we are trying to solve a user experience problem, if we understand the technology, and that is, I personally believe that it is even more important for designers to have a tech oriented mindset,
Right.
because the more comfortable you get with understanding how they function, the more easily you can utilize it into your problem solving.
Okay.
So we are of course working on many digital transformation projects.
Right.
Something that a lot of people would have seen early 2000s, where a lot of large scale digital transformation projects were going. In fact, now those projects are going on because these are very large enterprise applications.
Correct.
You cannot imagine transforming the entire applications.
Right.
A lot of people who are using change everything, bring in AI just because it's a thing, right?
Correct.
So it has to be, the transformation has to be progressive, and that is what we are noticing.
Okay.
A lot of enterprise applications are, since now they have become aware that something which was not possible earlier is now possible. They are thinking of use cases, and that is where designers are now contributing.
Interesting.
They are understanding what the user journey is and how they can simplify the overall user flow.
Okay.
By making use of an AI. Right?
Interesting.
A use case, if you remember, we were discussing how somebody wants to apply for job somewhere.
Correct.
Right? Earlier, they had to go through 5 different steps of filling in data, and then at the end, you would still ask them to upload a document.
Correct.
Now,
their resume.
correct, exactly.
Correct. Which had all the details that are there in the form anyways, right?
Correct.
So yeah.
So now, as a designer, if I understand that it is possible for AI to go through that and give us an excellent digest of the document which is uploaded, you suddenly reduce the entire pain of going through 5 different steps. And it's not only going through 5 different steps, you're asking for different data points. You're asking somebody to type their name, suddenly you're asking them to enter a phone number, right? And then asking them to set their, some form of a date, for example. So all of these are different input types.
Correct.
They look identical, but then for the user, they are different interactions, right? Now, all of those things can be simplified, and in fact, those things can become secondary step in the process of submitting data. That is just one use case.
Correct. Yeah. So just to add to that, right? When you mention secondary step, it's more of a human in the loop kind of aspect, right? Wherein you let the AI do its job. Right. And then you just ask the UI, a human to confirm on the UI. That's it, right? You show all of that.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen this amazing advertisement by 5-star Do Nothing University or something like that.
No,
if not, I'll send the link to you. So they have this thing of, in the future when AI takes over the world, right? Humans will still have a job of doing nothing, like meaning they go sit in an office and the AI does something, just asks for confirmation. The human just has to hit confirm. Right? That's the human, and I think that is where we are heading based on the use case that we just mentioned. Right? That's where we are heading.
Of course. In fact, a very practical example, something that we have worked on recently, is how you can. So back in the day, if you were one of those guys who would analyze medical data, right, like medical images, right, you would, for example, in your application, receive a blown up version of a tissue, like a picture of a tissue, microscopic image of a tissue. Right. you would analyze the image,
Mm.
you will annotate it, you will
Correct.
make observations around
Right.
it, and it would take a lot of time for you to do that.
We built an app around
We
that. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
we designed an application and built the application which would take care of all of this first level annotation and doing the image analysis.
Correct.
And if I am the person who's analyzing the medical images, my job is now to verify data. Exactly what you just said,
Yep.
right?
Just click approve.
Right. So I have not lost my job,
Correct.
right? But I can now accomplish a lot in a smaller time frame. I think the most valuable resource as a human race we have is time.
Correct.
So if we just look at these technologies, we will realize how much time we are able to save. And by saving time, we can accomplish more, not less.
Correct.
And that is a kind of a disconnect that I'm seeing, and hopefully with more maturity, things will improve. But people felt that I will lose my job, right? What they did not realize, they can accomplish more because they have saved their time.
Yes.
So that's definitely there. Within enterprise applications, we are digging through a lot of use cases to kind of uncover what all we can do. Right. And as I said, if the product had 100 features, we are not transforming each and every
All
one of
100
them.
of them.
Right.
Correct.
We are trying to optimize some of the existing use cases, and we may even come up with certain more newer use cases,
Right.
which can simplify the workflow. And that's where the enterprise applications. I think the use cases are slightly different when you look at consumer apps versus enterprise.
Correct. So based on how you spoke about the use cases, it's like the joke about user experience or design that has been going around. Like if it's user interface and user experience is like a bad joke. If you have to explain it, then it's
not good.
It's not good or something. I'm sorry, I probably spoiled the
No,
joke.
I get
Right,
that's still
but
funny.
yeah, right. So I think adding AI into user experiences is something like that.
Yeah,
Where of
yeah.
course some people call it AI. There are hundreds of .ais that
Yeah.
are coming up, right?
Yeah, of course.
This .ai, that .ai. Everyone is creating their own .ai domains, creating products, right? And we are building many of those, helping people build those, right? But there are also a lot of tools, like you said, which don't really explicitly talk about it, but they use AI to actually make the entire user experience better,
Yes.
right? And I think that's the way to go.
That is
Wherein
the way to go.
a user who is familiar with the tool that they have been using, but you just make one tiny aspect of that tool better, and then the user is a lot happier, and that's what user experience and human centered that you mentioned, right? That's what it is, right?
Yeah, and in fact, this again one more common saying in the world of design is, a good interface is a good experience is invisible,
Right.
right? So a lot of that is becoming true with AI. What AI, the ways in which the AI is using human beings, not using him, I am a bot. The way the AI is helping human beings into their day to day is marvelous.
Right.
It is extremely invisible.
As
a common user, as a consumer of a product or a user of a product,
right,
I may not even know there is a sophisticated technology behind how I am dealing with the application, which was non-existent a few months ago. Right. So that is definitely very very interesting. And as a designer, as I said before, if you're aware, you can be conscious of that, and you can design your user journeys around it.
Right.
The simplest example, of course, is recommendation engines. We have built so many recommendation engines. Right? So now we know what parameters to track. Like for example, Netflix. Netflix does an excellent job at recommendations.
Right.
I know there are people who still hate recommendations, so nothing against you. But it's just amazing if you look at it from technological standpoint. The thumbnails are created by AI. The video previews are created by AI. Right? In a lot of cases, when you watch a piece of content, and in fact it's true on YouTube as well and all the other platforms, they study your behavior. Right. Now, as a designer, if I understand I can study users' behavior in this way, and these are the parameters that I can utilize, I can have a better user experience in place. Right. My conversations with technologists become much more easier because we can now speak the same language.
Right?
So at the end of the day, the users, the human beings are getting benefited from it, right? I, of course, as a professional, will have better career if I understand this. But the point is, both of us, you have been a coder, one of the best ones I've known my entire life, right? So both of us can speak similar language, and we can push forward towards one single goal, which is to push out an excellent user experience, right? So we can truly think in a human centric way and spend more time empathizing with the users and less time worrying about will AI take away my job probably.
Right.
Can
Right.
it write code? Can
Right.
it create
Right.
banners? Whatnot,
Right.
right? So
Can it use humans?
can it use humans? So
Right.
that's definitely there, and I see the shift happening. Um, there, as in the beginning, I mentioned there are still set of certain biases coming in, and that's where I think we have to be very conscious about how we are training AI,
Right.
and that of course is going. I think that will continue to be a struggle
Yeah, yeah.
because
So that is, something that has been happening with each and every new revolutionary piece of
yeah,
technology we have been
correct,
getting, right? So
yeah,
I was listening to some podcast, I don't remember the name, where they were speaking about, how the privacy of human beings is going to go for a toss
yeah,
the minute you add a camera to a mobile phone.
uh,
Because mobile phones were great, everyone had one.
uh,
Right now, you add camera to mobile phones, then the notion was that anyone can take anyone's photo doing anything,
yeah,
right? So then your entire aspect of privacy just goes away, right? But privacy not in terms of data and web apps, but in general, like you're roaming on the street, someone can click your photo, right?
correct,
So but now people are fine with it,
yeah,
right? People have learned, understood the impacts of it, what happens with it, and they're fine with it. And I see that with AI, something similar is going to happen. It is very, very new now, and it is moving very fast. So it's becoming very, very difficult for us as humans to actually, adapt it and understand the implications of where it will impact, how it will impact, right? But there are also a lot of, people, a lot of groups of people, regulationary bodies and whatnot, who are trying their best to bring in these regulations
yeah,
around AI,
yeah,
AI development and all
yeah.
that. And I think with time, things will, of
Things will
course,
definitely improve.
streamline and, it will, get better for sure.
I think what has happened is, and I'm actually happy to see that awareness getting built. AI is kind of a nuclear technology. You can decide to build a bomb, or you
Correct.
can decide
Yes.
to create clean energy.
Yes.
It's completely
Yep.
the choices we make as a human.
Correct.
We will, of course, have certain bad elements, but
Correct.
I believe that humans are good race in general, so they will do good things with it, with the technology for sure.
Interesting, Chandan. That was good, and that was, traditional AI in applications and things like that. But when it comes to, the current trend of generative AI and adding it to your apps right now, we are seeing huge, number of requests coming in, even for my team at Coditas, in building chatbots and conversational interfaces, right?
Right.
So what's your opinion on that? How do you think of that?
I have always looked at any kind of experience as a
Mhm.
form of a conversation at the core.
Interesting. Okay.
For example, if you're trying to use a mobile application or a web application,
Mm-hmm.
or say you're trying to use a smart home device,
Mm-hmm.
it is basically a communication between you as the user and the device on the other end.
Got it.
And a lot of work that we do as technologists is to simplify this
This
exchange.
interaction. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What has happened is in the recent times with generative AI, of course, we have had artificial neural networks since a long time. ChatGPT or the natural language processing
Mm-hmm.
has allowed us to utilize some of those existing technology
Right.
and convert a lot of interactions which were earlier press of a button, typing,
Right.
an input field,
Right.
to more natural form of exchange between the human and the machine.
Okay.
Of course, there are different ways in which you interact with the computer,
Mm-hmm.
right? With generative AI, we are seeing a lot of type-based or text-based input
Correct.
and output.
Correct.
Relatively lesser amount of visual input and output,
Mm.
but that's absolutely fine.
Right.
Like where we talk in words.
Correct. So sorry to interrupt you
Sure.
there, but there has been this entire debate in various corners of the internet where you are changing the click of a button, and instead of that, you're asking the user to type a sentence, right? Wherein the user is actually doing more work now,
Yeah.
right? There are ways to like about how you think about conversational interface and designing it, which again we have worked with a bit, but can you maybe elaborate on that? Like, do you think that people should be doing that? There are a lot of people who are who can't answer that question. They say, "Nahin,
Yeah.
we have made a conversational AI, conversational bot, so everything happens through this now. No
Correct.
UI is the new UI,
Correct.
which started a couple of years ago, right?
Correct.
That that can be very easily made true now.
Of course.
So what's your thoughts on that? Like, changing the click of a button to actually let the user type out an entire sentence to just submit something.
Yeah. See, a lot of work that we do as designers revolves around the user's mental model, how we think certain things function,
Right.
and our habit of interacting with them. If we try to bring in drastic changes into the natural way of doing things, and those things could be highly inefficient way of doing things, it will definitely disrupt the user experience. So I feel there will be a transition, which we are seeing right now. So we should not forcefully push conversational experiences into everything because it is the new thing. We should be cognizant of the fact that the user's existing understanding of how the system functions and how I have my conversation with the system, that plays a huge role. Now suddenly I have a different way of interacting with the system. I will be confused. I will naturally not know how to interact with it.
Correct.
It took years for people, and in fact, even today, a lot of people don't understand that what they see on the screen is a button.
Correct.
It is also a fault of a designer.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But I've seen people struggle with obvious button-looking buttons.
Right.
Now, if you expect me, if I am that kind of a person, and if you expect me to have conversation with a system which I was not even aware that I could do, I was earlier clicking a button.
Right.
There'll be a natural learning curve. But at the same time,
for the user,
for the user. But at the same time, the most exciting aspect of natural language conversations and specifically typing is whatever you type, the system has some response. Right? So earlier, if you had a screen, there were two buttons there. If you clicked outside somewhere, let's say for example, around the button, the intended action will not happen.
Right.
But now you can literally, I can use my regional language to have a conversation.
Oh, yes, that's interesting. Yes.
Right. So I can type in Hindi and get a response
In Hindi.
right, in Hindi, instead of seeing a pop-up which tells me, oh, something went wrong.
Right.
I think it will take some time as we transition and become more comfortable with the newer age, user experiences as a consumer, as a user. And this is the time in which we as technologists will have to have some patience and support as people migrate.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
And next stage, of course, is going to be voice-driven experiences, right? So I am particularly more excited about voice-driven experiences.
Correct.
I feel far ahead in the future. The use of interfaces, they're going to keep on reducing. Right? The use cases are going to become much richer in nature.
Okay.
Right? For example, you get into the car, you tell the car where you want to go, which is possible now. Of course, it is not available, deployable in the mass.
Correct.
In country like India, it is.
Of course.
I don't know how much time it's going to take, but the point is, it is possible right now. It is happening. It's happening. Right? You don't have to get into the car, pull up an interface of a map, type in the location you want to go, press a button, and then press a button to start the navigation. The entire pain is gone. You enter the car, you tell the car where you want to go, it takes you there. Right? See, overall experience of the users are going to continue getting more and more easier, and that is where we will start forgetting how complicated these technologies are. So that's definitely there. The way we are deploying it right now, so there are a few things, priority areas that we are working on a war footing since last many months now, and you and I have be dealing with this. Specifically to the design team, we are trying to ensure they are becoming aware of this um, direct application of AI, also what may happen in the future, so that they are prepared for the future. They do not become obsolete.
Right.
Um, and of course, at the end of the day, come up with smarter user experiences. Right.
Right.
Use cases like personalization,
Mm.
right? Dynamic interface generation,
Right.
right?
Based on what a user wants to see, or
Exactly, right? So, for example, you can study the user's interaction patterns and
Right.
modify your interface on the runtime. Interesting. Right? So the look and feel will be identical across your brand,
Correct.
but the interaction can still be very personalized to the user. Somebody has fat fingers, for example. We used to worry about having buttons large, but then we used to think, oh, such large buttons for everyone probably is not going to make sense, right? So if you understand those preferences, you can allow users to have a better time dealing with your applications.
Correct.
And that's where we think things are going for sure. So natural language processing has helped
Yes.
tremendously.
Interesting. And I want to go back to one point you mentioned about cars, right? So when I, or maybe people like me, developers who have been writing software, think about interfaces that UX people do, we only think about apps on a screen, right? But then the user experience actually goes beyond screens, where it could be cars, it could be smart homes. This year in CES, we saw a plethora of small tiny bots. LG, Samsung, they all came up with small bots which you can I don't know if you saw that. You can have small tiny bots. They look like a small football, right? You have it in your home, they keep roaming around. You can actually text it something if you're not at home, and it can do something at your home, like it can control your smart home for you. It can feed your pet for you. It can collect a parcel that has been received for you, and things like that. And you just have to text it, right? So for a like, it's conversational, but then you're actually talking to a machine, an entity that can actually perform a task, a physical task in a physical world, right? So I think thinking about user experience from that entire perspective, I think that opens up many more possibilities.
Yes, definitely it does. Right. Things like, for example, using AI to monitor the use of home appliances and saving energy. So
people have been working on
it. A lot of systems exist around it.
Yep.
And say, using facial recognition to customize your home based on what is suitable for you. Right? The closest application is going to be those automatic car seats where you can program memory functions.
Right.
So you can have 3-4 different buttons. You press a button, it adjusts the entire setting, the steering wheel, the seat, everything, lumbar support, everything according to your preference. And that's the simplistic application, but you can extrapolate it and have a larger experience where everything is connected. All the devices are connected. The bot that you talked about, before you enter the house, you can tell the bot, I have guests coming over, right? And it'll ensure that it is every corner is clean and everything is organized properly.
Correct.
And after having a wild party, you can tell the bot, clean the house.
It's not there yet, but we are getting there.
You can extrapolate what is possible.
Yeah.
And that's where I think what we discussed at the beginning connects.
Right.
A lot of things which we thought were not possible are now becoming possible, right? And that's just magic.
Correct. It feels like magic.
It's like magic.
Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, that was good, Chandan. So one last question I have for you. So if I am someone who has built an app, and I want to start integrating AI or generative AI in my app because of whatever reason, because everyone is doing it, because I feel there could be a use case or something like that, how should I start thinking about designing that use case?
Wonderful question.
You said we have a playbook and all. Do you want to talk about that? Or
yeah. As in, we have internal tools and operational infrastructures in place, which support a lot of this.
Right.
Since we have been at it since over a year now, We have experimented, we have failed, and we have learned. So I would say the easiest and the fastest way would be to reach us.
Yes.
But anyway, so
Right.
jokes aside, I think, say for example, if I am the founder of such company or an application, if I have an application like that, I would personally not prefer on, drastically changing how things function, especially if I have a large user set. But at the same time, I can of course reach out to people who know this stuff well, work with them to identify how I can make use of this technology. I may or may not know it. I could be a
Right.
founder who understands technology, or I could be
Correct.
somebody who doesn't.
Right.
Even if I do, my priorities can be different. My
Correct.
priority is to scale, market,
Correct.
increase the business,
Yep.
increase the revenue share, whatnot. I can of course get in touch with, hire an expert or get in touch with somebody who can help me uncover these use cases, and they can educate me. Okay, this is what is possible, and when I get to know what all is possible, I will personally be careful about how fast I'm rolling them out.
Right.
Right? Because as I said, the last thing you want to do is to roll out an update which changes the user interaction, and suddenly
Yes,
people are confused. Is this the same app I was using yesterday? And we have seen that happening so many
Yes.
times, right? Um, Yesterday you would log in using something else. Today it is asking you to use your fingerprint. Now you're confused. Oh, I don't have my fingerprint registered. You could be concerned. How did they get access to my fingerprints? Right?
Correct.
So we should be mindful of how the product rollouts are happening. Of course, we should not be too slow.
Right.
Then you'll be killed by the competition.
Yes.
Right? But
You should strike a balance.
yeah, you should try to strike a balance, and that's the key, right, everywhere. But yes, I think it will definitely open up a lot of possibilities of growth for
Nice.
software in general. If I have a business which is centered around software, even if I don't, like, so for example, I'm sorry, slightly digressing. An excellent use case that I was working on a couple of months ago with somebody else in the team was, how do we use AI to optimize delivery routes, right?
Okay.
For example, um, say for example, I'm Amazon. There's a large inventory, a large warehouse, a lot of products are kept there. AI can help me understand which products are going to be high in demand, in what month of the year, in what region, and I can have the entire inventory management handled with the help of AI.
Yeah.
And
They all do
along
that
with that,
now,
they all do that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then of course, ensuring the delivery also happens in a seamless way, in the
Correct.
fastest way possible.
Correct.
You then again extrapolate it to something what people do in shipping industry,
Correct.
which is sadly lacking behind in the entire
Right.
digital transformation
Right.
race.
Right.
Just imagine billions of dollars worth of trade happening every day. And if you could make small improvements here and there by deploying technology better, you could save so much.
Interesting. So what you're saying is what the large e-commerce players or whoever have been doing already,
Yeah.
extrapolate that, and then that same thing that AI can help a lot of other industries like shipping, which is lacking a lot in digital transformation right now, as we know it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that was it, Chandan, and thank you very much for joining in. It was a fun discussion. I loved it. A lot
100%.
of things in core UX that I had not thought of from this perspective on how AI can add to it, enhance it, and things like that. So I definitely enjoyed
Sure.
speaking with you. Do you want to add any closing notes?
If you are a designer, get comfortable. Don't be threatened by AI. It is in fact going to save a ton of time and make you more productive. Learn how to utilize into your workflow. And if you're a founder and a business who is worried about how to use AI, reach us.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks, Chandan. And thank you to everyone. Thank you for listening in. And I will see you in the next one. That is, if AI hasn't taken over the world yet.